smiled at their compliments, favored them with his smooth talk, electric smile, and brunette-colored eyes, but would not let them touch his piano-playing fingers. Those he kept hidden behind his back, stuffed into the wells of his pants pockets, or laced together and swaying in front of his crotch. "Do you know Cherry Point?" was all Sherry said to him when he was finally able to break away from the women and was sliding past her. "Cherry Point," she said again, when all he did was stare. "Yes," smooth as silk sailed out of his mouth, and then a smile and a nod of his head. He watched her for a while, before he said yes to something else, and then turned and started back toward the piano, brushing past the women and their frozen smiles, and settling himself back down onto his bench. He positioned his piano-playing fingers over the black and white keys, spoke to them with his mind, wiggled them, and then dropped them down and began to play Cherry Point, twice. Later, after his piano-playing fingers played Avenue C and Blue Room Jump and April in Paris down her spine and across her rib cage, after he treated her nipples like the lip of a trumpet, played her ass like a djembe drum, and stroked the inner parts of her thighs like a sitar until the muscles went soft like cream, and gave way, and her legs parted until they were flung wide, revealing her very own Cherry Point. And it wasn't until he lay sleeping beside her, his arm thrown across her breasts, that she realized that his eyes were the same color as her nipples. She realized, as the sun broke through the slats of the mini-blinds, that he had used Count Basie to seduce her, and that the clenching and unclenching jaw had reminded her of the pro ball players that mesmerized her, and that the toss of his head made her think of easier times, and that all of that and the Chardonnay had somehow blinded her to the fact that he wasn't just a man, but a white man. It was as easy as pie to get on a plane and fly from St. Louis to Paradise, Nevada, to tell her mother, Dumpling, that she was moving to Chicago, moving into a one-bedroom overlooking the river with her friend, her boyfriend, Edison Powell, the musician with mahogany-colored eyes and piano-playing fingers. Dumpling had nodded and grunted before finally looking real hard at the picture of the boyfriend who couldn't find time to get on the plane with her daughter and meet her face to face. Blonde hair, brown eyes, white boy. Sherry hadn't said a word about that part of him. "He knows all of Count Basie and can play most anything," Sherry had gushed. "You too, it seems," Dumpling huffed, and handed the picture back to Sherry. "If your daddy were alive, you know he'd disapprove," she added, hard-toned. Sherry ignored the words. How could Dumpling know what those fingers did to her? And if her father were alive, he wouldn't have understood it either. He was a die-hard howling wolf and muddy waters man. But he was dead and buried, 10 years by then. That's why it was easy as pie to hop on that plane from St. Louis to Paradise, Nevada, and announce the plans for the rest of her life in Chicago with a white man. "He's the blackest white boy I've ever met," Sherry said brightly. "Not like those white folks you thinking about at all, Dumpling." "Uh-huh. Cool and laid back. He understands the struggle." "Whose struggle?" "Oh, Dumpling. I can't help who I love." "You never have been able to." "What does that mean?" "You always choose wrong. That boy with the lisp from, where was it now?" "Manuel from South America." "Yeah. And the other one with the slanted eyes?" "Mahane." "And the one with the turban?" "Muhammad." "I told you none of them would last, didn't I?" "You taught me to see people for who they are on the inside." "Yes, I did." "Well, that's what I'm doing." "So you've been seeing this man for how long?" 3 months.